Hey, I'm Ethan, and today I'm reviewing Ghosts of Tsushima. Tsushima? Tsushima? Toshiba? Toblerone? I'm sorry, I don't speak Japanese. Anyway, Ghost of Tsunami is Sucker Punch's latest game for the PlayStation 4 and the last major exclusive for the console as well. It's set in the year 1274 on the island of Tsushima, Japan, during historic war when the Mongolians attacked and took over the island. You play as Jin Sakai, a lone samurai survivor from the Mongol attack. Well, lone apart from his uncle and mentor, Lord Shimura. Jin must free the island and his uncle from the Mongolian invaders and their ruthless leader, Khotun Khan. Again, I am bad at pronouncing Eastern names. So, before I get into the meat of this review, I want to say that I'm not done with the game. I played for nearly 7 hours straight yesterday, so I think I've got enough of a grasp to give a first impressions review, and because of that, I won't touch on any of the further story elements, so you won't need to worry about spoilers. If I play further and have a dramatic shift in my opinion, which I honestly doubt will happen, I'll give a spoiler review and either update or take down this video. Let's start with my very first moment of the game. I was given the choice to play in standard English, Japanese dubbing, or Japanese dubbing with a cinematic black and white filter. I chose the second option because I really wanted to play a game set in Japan with Japanese voices. It just felt right. The opening cutscene begins. It's graphically beautiful, and the lip syncing with Japanese dubbing is horrendous. The second that cutscene ended, I switched over to English audio. It was a lot better, but I'm really disappointed I couldn't play with the Japanese voice. Lip syncing being off is a huge pet peeve of mine. It gets on my nerves so bad. However, that's my only complaint I have. Everything else is phenomenal. I've had so many moments where I really became immersed in the world, audibly saying, "Wow," to all the scenery and attention to detail. Take a look at these screenshots to see how beautiful the world Sucker Punch created is. All the particle effects are amazing, the way the leaves fall or flutter around you when you step on them, the way the wind carries and blows grass through fields. What I really love is the dynamic weather. It can change for scripted moments or completely at random when exploring the island. The way the clouds roll in and blot out the sun, changing the light to reflect the weather as the rain begins to pour. You can almost feel the air getting cold around you. It's incredible. And that's just the in-game graphics. Cutscenes are jaw-dropping. The environment really sucks you in, and it's accompanied by some very nice, relaxing Japanese music that makes wandering the world a serene experience. And what's really impressive is that despite the insane level of detail, the game runs at a consistent 60 frames. It's really smooth, but ultimately I'm kind of bad at telling the difference between 30 and 60 frame, if I'm being honest. My TV is 120 Hz, so everything looks smooth, really. What's even more impressive than how smooth it runs is the loading times. They're almost non-existent. But a pretty and smooth game ultimately means nothing if the gameplay is poor, which is not the case at all for Ghost of Tsushima. There are 3 ways you can fight back against the Mongols as Jin. The traditional samurai approach of fighting as an honorable swordsman. You can take a vantage point and strategically snipe your enemies with a bow. Or you can take the dishonorable approach and stab your enemies in the back with stealthy assassination tactics. When taking the head-on melee approach, the combat requires patience and focus, like a real samurai would need. You can dodge, block, parry, and attack with varying strength, and although the combat is simple, it can end with just a few mistakes. It's easy to understand, but requires a certain level of finesse to truly master. And it feels incredibly smooth and satisfying the way Jin slices through enemies like butter. Now, the archery, I haven't gotten too far into it, as it's a bit more difficult to get down. The bow's draw speed, arrow drop, the bow type, all of it matters in how effective you are as a marksman. And as for the stealth, I would say it's similar to that of Shadow of Mordor, with a simple press square to assassinate, with unlockable chain assassinations and tools and that sort of thing to help you out. It's not an easy path to take, however. Enemies will likely spot you if you don't take the time to scout out the land and know what's what. Each of these fighting styles has their own unique upgrade tree and different ways to unlock new abilities. The armor you choose to wear can give you boosts to the 3 methods of combat, as well as a few other perks. So do the charms you can put on your weapons. All your armor, hats, swords, and bows can be recolored by trading with merchants using flowers and other materials you find in the world. Speaking of the open world, the island of Tsushima is massive and packed with things to do. I found myself constantly getting distracted on my way to main quest markers with things like side quests, fox dens, shrines, collectibles, exploration, and so on. Every side quest, or tale as the game calls it, has so much work put into it. The characters you interact with are really interesting, and as far as I've found, there's no useless filler stories. It's almost like playing a TV show, really. Jin is wandering along the path when he finds a stranger in need. There's a cinematic introduction to the person, followed by a title card. You follow them and hear their story, complete their 15-minute or so quest, and finish with an end title card and maybe get a segue to the next part of their tale. It's a really nice experience that feels totally original to this game. If I were to describe Ghost of Tsushima in one word, it would be realistic. The combat flows exactly how you would expect it to in reality. Enemies aren't sponges that absorb all your attack, but rather they'll fall in just a few hits. And your attacks are brutally accurate. Slice someone and their blood will splash on you and stay on your sword for the remainder of the battle. Maybe even a little bit longer. I haven't personally experienced this, but I've seen some clips on the internet that dismemberment and cutting off arms and legs, that is a part of the game. And you aren't some superhuman that can take 100 blows. As I mentioned previously, you die in just a few hits on the hard difficulty. When you fall to the ground, your attacker will execute you in some fashion. And the second their blade makes a killing strike on Jin, the screen cuts to black. You can't jump off buildings without caution, as you'll take a large amount of fall damage, making the climbing and parkour section much more intense. The world's dynamic weather and day-night cycles feel natural, as does the movement of all the animals and fireflies and dragonflies and whatever else you can find in the world. The dialogue between characters feels natural, and the only thing that really pulls me out of the immersion is, like I mentioned earlier, the lip syncing. Even though the English version is better than the Japanese, it still isn't 100% accurate. And this is no insult to the Japanese and English actors. They do a phenomenal job. And I don't think it's really anybody's fault on the development side of things. I think that, that technology is just really hard to perfect, and maybe we haven't made that leap yet. Regardless, Ghost of Tsushima is an amazing game that is incredibly addicting, and I've only had it a day. With a 30-hour campaign and a world begging to be completed in its entirety, I can see myself sinking dozens upon dozens of hours into it, which is why, as of now, I give it a 9 out of 10. Every year since the launch of the PlayStation 4, Sony has released an exclusive that defines the console. Killzone Shadowfall in 2013, Infamous Second Son in 2014, Bloodborne in 2015, Uncharted 4 in 2016, Horizon Zero Dawn in 2017, God of War in 2018, Death Stranding in 2019. And I mean, technically that one's coming to PC now, but if you want, Days Gone in 2019 was pretty good, I've heard. And now Ghost of Tsushima. It's truly Sony's swan song for the PlayStation 4, a final goodbye. It's been a great generation, and I can't wait to see what the PlayStation 5 has to offer. See ya.